This is it, we're live.
Facebook Live.
Facebook Live. Here I am with Tommy Sablan, you guys. This is Linda West with Living Live, and I love getting together with people who really put themselves out there to make a difference in the world, and this guy is definitely one of those. I'm so happy to have you here.
And you are too. I mean, what's your name on Facebook? What's it say?
Sunshine.
No, it says something giving back. Or
Oh, I
something.
changed it.
Yeah, it used to be that.
It used to be Linda giving back to charity. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, that
But
was,
we got, this is cool. Look, we got a, I hope this is a microphone.
I
And,
know.
this is cool. Hello.
All right, it's not going to start vibrating anytime soon.
No. What up?
What up? And so we are here today. I wanted to interview Tommy because he's done so much for the community. He went to school. Like, I went to the same school with him, and I didn't know him because he's a year younger than me. And you know how like those snobby older people are.
Castle Park was the best 6 years of high school.
Exactly. Yes. That's 6 years of high school. But
Yes.
you know, I remember you because you played in your band.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Sometimes during lunch break or something.
We played a few times. I played in a little garage band, a couple of them.
Uh-huh.
You know, I only know 3 chords, and I know those 3 same chords today, and that's can get you into a garage band, and we played in many. And I love the fact that I do know those chords, because you can, you know, those bar chords. If you know those chords, you can play with any band, especially with rock and roll.
Rock and roll, yeah, and like blues music too. It's like 3 chords.
Oh, yeah.
Country, 3 chords.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe 2.
yeah, it's countries too. But when you get into jazz and you know,
complicated
friends like Max and Eric Mabry, they know all those.
Dementia. All those dementia chords. Yeah. So, but you know, that was good times, right? Back in high school, some really fun stuff going on. But so after high school, though, you started to take a course. I know that, and I don't really want to talk about like your childhood and stuff like that. I want to talk about.
I can talk about anything.
Well, I want to kind of like, because I don't have a lot of time, so I got.
How much time?
I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, crap.
Is that a lot?
No, that's cool.
It's like, oh damn. Well, because you've done so much, and we have little time, I want to condense it. So I want to talk about when you got into radio. Because first, I'm gonna start today, and I'm gonna head right back, because you just recently got the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, the first producer ever.
Yes, Jeff and Jared and I are inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame in Chicago, and I'm the very first producer in the history of radio to be inducted. And it's so cool, because in Chicago there's a museum, and there's, you know, Bob Hope, Lucille Ball, Jack Benny, you know, Casey Kasem,
Tommy Sablan,
and then there's little Tommy right there. It's like, what? But you know, I'm very proud.
It's so amazing, because you think about like how you got started. So when you got started, was Y95 your first radio station?
That's the first radio station with Jeff and Jared. You know, getting into radio goes back to high school. June of 1982, I was getting ready to ditch school with Caroline Silva. You know, and I had my guitar in my hand and Caroline on my left arm, and I was going to ditch school. And Mr. Dappert, Charles Dappert, my high school counselor, had lunch duty, and he saw me and he goes, "Hey Tommy, instead of ditching school with Caroline, why don't you go into the cafeteria at Castle Park High School and listen to a guy talk about radio? Since you obviously like music, maybe this will interest you." And I went in there, and it was career day, and a guy named Jonathan Lang, a DJ in San Diego, was talking about radio, and then he started doing trivia questions about music, and I would know the answer before he finished the question, and he got a kick out of that. And for some reason, he saw something in me, and then the next day he called my house with Mr. Dappert, and they asked my mom if she can take me down to the radio station, KBES 95, for a tour. This is June of 1982, and then the next day, you know, my mom in a 1977 Ford Maverick took me to Claremont Mesa Boulevard on Convoy Court, and I took a tour of KBES, and I've been in radio ever since. And it wasn't until recently where I wondered about that, and wondered why he did that, and I think it's because he wanted to give a kid in Chula Vista a break.
Yeah. And you were that kid.
You know, and I think about it often because I'm wondering why did he do that, and it's so cool, and that's it.
And you've been giving back ever since.
Well, you know, I don't know. That's what they say.
Oh, well, you do.
There's an earthquake.
We are in San Diego, you know.
Yes.
That is so awesome because you think we think of circumstances in life, and you know, that moment came, and you had a decision to make, and your decision was continue to ditch with the girl, or to go listen to Mr. Dapper, which I don't know what I would have done. I might not have listened to Mr. Dapper.
And Mr. Dapper, I kept in touch kind of through the years, and he did know I was on the radio. He did listen, and then he passed away, and I was able to thank his family, and I actually thanked him in my little speech I gave at the National Radio Hall of Fame.
Wow! Oh, wow! Because he was the beginning. He was the beginning.
Yes, he was absolutely the beginning.
And he had no idea, really. I mean, he saw something in you.
And Jonathan Lang, the DJ, and Caroline Silva became a school teacher, so that's kind of cool.
Well, that is. Yeah, that's awesome. So she ended up not ditching that day too.
I don't know what she did. I think she followed me, but yes, everything's great. And then from 1982 to 1988, I was part of KBS 95 and K-Light 94.9, and I just did everything. I was that kid that did everything. And then in 1988, we hire a new morning show, two guys that were out of work from Chicago, and we changed the name to Y95, and then that was it.
Okay, so when they change the name of a station like that, do they change platforms and things too, or at that time they just decide to change the name?
Change the name, and you know, we were at K-Light 94.9. You know, May 2nd, 1988, we were playing jazz at night. You know, contemporary jazz was huge back then. And then May 3rd, 1988, we became Y95, and I believe we were like playing the hits, you know, from Madonna to Fine Young Cannibals to everything back then. I remember it because you guys would do parties and stuff. There was like a huge party down at the Marriott. Yeah, right here. Yeah, it was just so amazing. It was just a lot of fun to see you go through this. You know, I didn't see it at the beginning until you got to 195 because I didn't know about the other stations. Like I still never heard of those stations. But yeah, but it's so cool when you talk about those days. Y95, 1988 to 1990 was so cool because it was the beginning. We didn't know if we were going to be any good. We didn't know if we were going to be successful. We didn't know if anyone was listening. And then I remember we had a Halloween party at the Marriott downtown, and we gave out a lot of tickets, thinking the formula is going to be half will show up because it was a free party. But like there was like 10,000 people that showed up. And it was so cool. That's when we looked at each other and went, "Whoa, we got something." Yeah. Well, that is interesting because I was going to ask you that question. You know, when you started out, did you ever think that it would go this far? I mean, well, first of all, the Hall of Fame, right, is like unheard of because in your position as a producer, like you would never even imagine that. Yeah. Yes, that's really cool. I think about it often because we are reaching 30 years. May 3rd. Are we that old? May 3rd, 1988 to now, we're approaching 30 years on the radio. And we've had a lot of changes, a lot of changes with stations, a lot of changes with the configuration of personnel of the show, and we're still here. And you know, I'm so excited and I'm very proud, but I'm proud because of the way I grew up and our listeners. You know, people ask me all the time, well, you know, why do you do things in the community? It's because I think how I was raised and how the show grew up with our listeners. And in San Diego, when there's something going on, when we were on the air, our listeners and our show together would do something. You know, like Becky's House. We have a shelter for domestic violence here in San Diego for victims of domestic violence, their families and their pets. There's two locations, you know, where we can't say where, but there's 2 locations in San Diego. That's from our listeners and our show. You know, Finish Chelsea's Run, to, you know, Rady Children's Hospital, to many things, you know, started with our listeners. And,
and
so cool.
the Finish Chelsea's Run is an event that, did you kind of head that up, would you say? Or
yes, me along with four other guys. We're known as the five guys that started Finish Chelsea's Run in February, March of 2010.
Yeah.
You know, San Diego, you know, had Chelsea King in the news, and all that happened, and then bringing in Amber Dubois' family, and together Amber and Chelsea, you know, touched San Diego and all of our lives. And when they finally figured out what happened to Chelsea and Amber and all that stuff went down, four guys and I, Todd Velasquez, Aaron Acevedo, Andy Vogenthaler, David Jewell, and I, those guys are like four runners, and me. And we decided to finish Chelsea's actual route at Lake Hodges. And so we called the Poway cross-country coach, and he told us what route she probably took. And so on March 21st, 2010, through Facebook, we asked, you know, hey, we want 100 people to show up. 100 people to show up at Lake Hodges to finish Chelsea's actual route. And I said, just 100 people. Just please come. And we didn't get 100.
And how many did you get?
3,500 people showed up.
Oh my gosh.
And,
that's crazy.
3,500. And Kelly, Chelsea's mom, was at the finish line hugging everyone. And so that day we truly finished Chelsea's Run. And then from that moment forward, the family said, hey, let's do this every year. And so every year they do finish Chelsea's Run. And they do it at Balboa Park, where Chelsea loved to play music. And that's why they do it at Balboa Park. And it's so cool because they have me say a few words at the beginning. And the four guys and I will forever be the five guys that started Chelsea's Run.
Oh my God, and it's crazy as I did, you know, I've done Chelsea's Run at Balboa Park, and that hill is a bear.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But so Chelsea and Amber are two young girls who, you want to just like tell their story really quick about what happened?
Well, when you think of Chelsea, you think of Amber, and I'm close with both families. You know, Amber was taken from us on her way to school in Escondido back in February of 2009. And all of 2009, her mom, Carrie, was in search of her daughter. And she could not find her daughter all year long. If you can recall, everywhere you went, there was a poster of Amber.
Yeah.
And then that kind of faded away, you know, for some reason. And then February 2010, you know, January, February of 2010, a girl from Poway went for a run, Lake Hodges, and she's now in heaven. And those two are now connected because, you know, I don't even like saying the guy's name, but that person, that monster that did it, said what happened. And I became close with both families from that. And, you know, and I love, you know, Chelsea's family, Brent and Kelly King, they always mention Amber. And that's why they like me speaking, you know, at things for them, because when I talk about Chelsea, I always bring up Amber.
Yeah, it's just great work you guys, the five guys, have done.
Yes.
So we have Amy and Andy on.
Awesome. What up, Andy?
You did. Well, and I wanted to. There's so, like I said, there's so many things that you have done really for the community. You're a very humble guy, and I know that, but I'm going to bring up it anyway. And one of those is the Breaking and Entering Christmas that you do every year. And first of all, how long have you been doing that?
Over 20.
Over 20 years. And that started again another like fluke.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I always had Breaking and Entering Christmas in my mind.
Really?
The title. I always thought, you know, wow, Breaking and Entering Christmas, that sounds good. And then I was always waiting for a reason to do that. And then I think it was 1995 or 1996, we get a phone call on the radio from a single dad who just lost his job, and it was like in December. And he goes, hey, I'm not looking for any handouts, I'm not looking for anything for free. What I want is a job interview. I think he did construction. And he goes, if you can just get me a job interview, I just want to be able to buy my two little girls gifts for the holidays, gifts for Christmas. And we got him a job interview, and it was still during the morning show hours. And when he went out, I went in with a couple of friends. And before we went into his house, we went to Kmart and bought a bike, a couple of bikes, food, a tree, groceries, a couple of toys, and then we literally broke into the guy's house. And,
like really, really broke in?
We broke. That
like
was
this guy?
that was
This
the very first one. We truly broke into the window and set up a tree. And I remember doing that and setting everything up. And
Were you looking over your shoulder?
No. But I do recall very well seeing his family photo,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll always remember that. And I always think of that photo when we do them all, because it was so cool. And that was the birth of Breaking and Entering Christmas. And now, we say Breaking and Entering Christmas, but in reality, a neighbor or a friend or a cousin or an aunt kind of leaves the key for me. And so we ceremoniously break in. But back then it was, we helped one family on the air. Now we happen to help about 40 families in San Diego. We do one on the air,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch off the air, and it has spread across the country. There's about 20, 25, almost 30 radio stations across the country that also do it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I own the copyright, so that's cool.
Yay!
And here's a cool story.
Eddie King! Oh my
Eddie.
gosh, I haven't seen him forever, except on the internet.
We Disney, the new Frozen movie that's coming out in December, actually says breaking and entering OK Christmas. So my attorney just wrote them a letter saying, hey,
Cease and desist?
but we're not going to tell Disney to stop, but we just told them, hey, I own the copyright to that, and
Like to give you credit or something.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
That's all I want.
Yeah, by Tommy Sablan.
Yes, at the very bottom, but that's cool.
That's cool. Now, how'd you get the nickname Little Tommy? Because now, did that start before radio, or?
It was, well, I'm 5'7" on a good day.
Yeah,
and,
you're still taller than me.
And although I need to sit up straight. And we were starting on the radio with Jeff and Jer, and my name was Tommy. I was May 2nd, 1988, I was Tommy. And I'll always remember when we started on the radio, I look at the schedule in the studio, and it said LTS with Jeff and Jer. And I was going, LTS? Then all of a sudden, in parentheses, Little Tommy Sablan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I found out they were changing my name to that. And it, I like it. I mean, Little Richard,
Oh, yeah,
Little Stevie. It's not
Big Bopper.
It's not necessarily about the height, but it's just an endearing name, and I like it. And it's
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered the story of that, because I wasn't sure if it started when in childhood or what have you. So it didn't start until May 3rd, 1988.
Yes.
Gosh, a lot of changes happened for you at that time. And what was it like to, like when you first met Jeff and Jared, did you meet them on May 3rd? Like all of a sudden, so how'd that work?
The very first time Jeff actually spoke on the radio in San Diego, it was at night, and I was doing a jazz show called Moonlight Cafe on K-Light 94.9, and I was playing stuff like David Sanborn to Steely Dan to Grover Washington Jr. To Ricky Lee Jones to Koinonia to Hiroshima, Manhattan Transfer. And as we were preparing for the morning show with Jeff and Jer, Jeff opened the mic and said, "Hi, this is Tommy Sablan, and this is the Moonlight Cafe." And that Jeff said that. He just wanted to open the mic and do that. So that was the very first words Jeff ever spoke on the radio.
Okay.
Jerry's first words were Blues 95. That's what he said. Because when he opened the mic at 5:30 on May 3rd, he said Blues 95 for some reason.
Instead of Wine 95.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And then, it's just been like 30 years with those guys almost.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, the configurations have changed, and
Well, you went from Y95 to B100?
Y95, 1988 to 1990. The original lineup was me, Jeff and Jer, Hank Bauer, and Ashley Gardner.
Oh, that's
and
right.
then we went to B100, 1990, 1993. Q106, 1993, 1997. Star 100.7, 1997 to 2005. 2005 to 2009, Star 94.1, and then we were on a 17-month on the beach somewhat a vacation where it was great. I mean, we learned a lot about ourselves and stuff. And then we started at Kixie January 2011, and Tuesday, June 27th was a day they said see ya. And from that moment forward, 2 months later, we are preparing, and hopefully we'll be announcing our new home soon.
Oh, cool. You're not going to announce it here on Linda's show?
We're still working on things, and nothing's set in stone, but we're very proud and confident.
That's interesting. So was that the only one? Because you said we were told no longer, or whatever. Was that the only time that happened, or like were all the other ones like we're heading off, we're going to go do something different?
2009, when we left Star 94.1, they wanted to let a few of the members of the show go, and we said no. We don't want anyone to go. We want to stay together as a family. And so because of that, then they said, see ya. But at that time, Jerry wanted to buy a radio station. So when we left August of 2009, when we walked out of this station at Star 94.1, I remember we all huddled around and said, hey, is everybody okay until the holidays? And then Jerry said, just give me through the holidays because I think I want to buy a radio station. And then we said, all right. And so we all, got through the holidays. And then after the holidays, Jerry said, now it's 2010. And then Jerry says, is everybody okay for a few more months? It's taking a little bit more time. And then we said, yes. And then it became the summer of 2010.
Oh my gosh.
And he's going, hey, this is tricky. Is everybody okay? And then now we're sweating it, and then as the holidays were approaching, we actually got a job because Jerry couldn't buy a radio station. He wasn't able to do it. And then we got hired actually at I forgot what it was called then, but it was 105.7.
Okay. That
was right at the holidays, and then when the owner or the general manager of that station went on a vacation, he got fired. And so that went away. And then I called Kixie and said, hey, how would you like to hire us? And they did.
Oh wow, that's cool. So you took that opportunity to call them.
But those 17 months off the air, I actually liked, and it made us who we are today. It humbled us, and I remember, August of 2009, I had big cars, and back then it was all about the gas. Gas was in the news huge.
Was it $5 a gallon or something?
It was a lot, and I had a Excursion and another car, and I ended up downsizing, which is great, and I just everything about life you figure out when things like that happen, and I loved it. So when I look back at those 17 months, I'm actually inspired, and that's why 2 months into this situation, I'm actually inspired by it, because sometimes when those breaks happen, unfortunately, you can be bigger and better. And and I also love that the things that we do, all of us on the show, are continuing to do for the community. Like, we still read to kids, we still talk at juvenile hall, Laura talks a lot, Jeff, Emily, everybody's doing things around the community. So the show, although off the air, is still together. We're a better show today than ever before.
So do you think the strength in that is, part of it is from some of the tribulations you've gone through that has made you guys stronger also together? And I know that a lot of you are recovering alcoholics.
I'm not.
Well, I don't know the word.
I'm more NA. AA was drinking.
Oh, okay.
I'm more. My thing was cocaine, and so I don't do that. I don't drink any. And I believe in 100% sobriety.
Awesome.
And so that's why I don't do anything. And what I teach or what I talk to kids about at juvenile hall is you don't have to get in trouble to choose sobriety. I never got in trouble. I don't think I've never been in jail. You know, I don't have a record. I've only been handcuffed once by this stripper. But just kidding. But I've never.
Oh, you handcuffed her.
But I've never, you know, gotten in any trouble. But I just wanted to live right. And you know, I did have a night where I drank a lot of tequila once, and that's where I said, "Geez, I don't like this."
Yeah.
And so I stopped everything. But my thing, you know, was not AA. My thing's more NA.
NA.
And
yeah.
but I don't mind talking about it. And now the thing is heroin. That's back in the world today.
Really? Okay.
Through prescription drugs, you know, the opioid, you know, word, and I'm very familiar with that because I grew up with two brothers that were heroin addicts, and all that stuff that I saw in the 70s as a kid, and all that stuff, and all the turmoil, and all that stuff that happens to families when heroin is in, I see today. And
wow.
And it's happening, you know, everywhere. I believe it's almost in every single school here in San Diego and across the country. For some reason, it started in West Virginia and spread this way recently with heroin by way of OxyContin. And back then, when my brothers were doing it, they knew what they were doing. They knew they shouldn't have done that. But now, and where we grew up, you know, Chula Vista, you know, Otay, National City, my brothers knew what they were doing. They didn't know the opioid, you know, thing going on. They didn't know about that because heroin is, you know, a terrible drug that gets your soul.
Yeah.
And now it's happening at rich white schools. I mean, to be honest with you, everywhere.
Just everywhere,
yeah. In Poway.
Is it happening in elementary schools?
And,
Have you seen any of that, or?
I just, you know, I don't want to point out any schools, but you know, I believe in every high school there's you know, there's drugs, you know. And speaking of elementary schools, that's the best place to teach them, because when I read to kids in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, when you read to those kids, they're so innocent and they're so loving.
Yeah.
And when I talk to them, they just have love in their hearts. So that right there is when you need to inspire them and teach them, because I know this, you know, firsthand. Right when you get into junior high, middle school, or whatever it's called now, that's when you know,
things start to change.
Yeah, things change, and you have to make choices. And although today I talk about sobriety, back in 1978, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, I was living the 70s and 80s lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I was too. You know, about 11th grade is when I started drinking. I never did drugs, but I just started drinking in 11th grade. It was just kind of like the thing everybody did. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, because it wasn't everybody. It was my friends. And there were some people who didn't do that kind of stuff. But yeah, do you think that there's a solution? Like you say, you know, talking to young kids, but what happens after you go out of the school and then they go to junior high school? You know what I mean? Like what happens then?
Is there a solution
to stop the
drug epidemic?
We have this drug. I'm sorry, the war on drugs. We've had it for 20-something years or whatever, and it's prevalent, and it's even probably bigger in some areas.
Here's where I think things can change to make it better, because in my opinion, some of the people that are strung out on heroin or prescription drugs, you know, the opiate drugs, OxyContin, oxycodone, and all that, is because someone successful, someone right there, someone here, someone just like me, someone just like you, might have a back problem, and then they go in for surgery, and what you most likely get prescribed is OxyContin. When someone gets prescribed OxyContin, which is synthetic heroin, it's not if they get addicted, it's when, because OxyContin is addicting and it'll get you. And then what is happening is that people are getting OxyContin, doing OxyContin, and then realizing, hey, that little blue pill. That pill, that's expensive. I just read online that heroin is the same thing. And so kids and professionals switch to heroin because they can't afford or can't get Oxycontin.
Wow.
And so just like, other people, they go down and knock on the door in an alley to get heroin, and then that's it. I mean, that's what's going on. And so that has to change.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely it has to change. But like how, right? How do we do that?
I think it starts with how doctors prescribe drugs, but it's an opiate. I believe, and I know there's going to be people to disagree. If you're getting stoned and you're smoking weed, I believe you can quit that. It just takes some wanting to do that. If you're drinking, scotch and soda all day long and you want to quit, I believe you can quit. Same with cocaine, same with crystal. I think you can quit if you truly want to and you have the support and the will. Heroin, opiate, that's a little different.
Different story.
Not because it's a heavier drug and it gets you. It's because an opiate, heroin, Oxycontin gets into your soul, and people that are good people, that are loving, like my brothers, they're great. They are great sons. They're great brothers, and I wish I knew today what it was doing to them, because I didn't know. Yeah. And I loved my brothers. I hated my brothers. I loved them and I hated them. I loved them and hated them. And I love them and I miss them today. But if I would have known what heroin was truly about, maybe I'd still be here.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, I know.
But what I do is when I talk to kids at juvenile hall, I say that. I talk about that, and then I say, I wish I can get into a time machine and go back to when my brothers were your age, when I was your age, and talk to us, and change the course and say, hey, this is what's going to happen to you if you continue to do drugs. But I can't do a time machine because there's no such thing. So when I talk to kids at juvenile hall, that's my time machine, and the kids I talk to are my brothers, and they listen. Because when I stand up in front of them, they know I'm not a cop, they know I'm not a counselor or a teacher, or a probation officer. I'm just a kid that grew up down the street, and they believe me.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And so some of those kids, though, that you've spoken to, once they get out, do they get in contact with you? And
I've had people contact me and just say, hey, you spoke at juvie or at a school, and I just want to say thank you. I get letters, and I don't speak. Sometimes I don't speak by myself. I'll take friend Clark Bartram. I'll take Gary Finelli from Frank Motors, and Gary Plummer, Charger and 49er, and we kind of Steph, and the Hugs guy.
I was gonna say the Hugs guy. I can't remember his name right now, but
it escapes me. I just talked to him.
Just like you just
the Free Hugs guy.
Connected with him. I mean, he just came down a couple months ago.
Ken Wadeke.
Yeah. I'm trying to interview him, by the way.
All right.
Yeah, maybe you can connect me.
Yes. And so we all talked to the kids at juvie.
That's really a very important role to play, because you can be the person, you can be the Mr. Dapper. That just had them see a different path. Like all he did is he said, don't go that path, try this.
Yes.
That's really all he did. It was up to you to actually walk the walk, though. But he just showed you that there might be something different for you.
Yeah, and that's all it takes. And when you asked earlier, what can happen in the world to change what's going on, the drugs and stuff, I do believe you just got to inspire someone at a younger age, and that's it.
It's interesting you say that, because I, even though I'm much older and I've never been like a heavy drinker, but drinking here and there. And what I recognize is in the last probably year, I don't think I've drinking at all. And it's not a conscious decision. It's just that I'm loving what I'm doing so much that I don't feel like, I just don't feel like it doesn't even enter my mind. I mean, I can't even explain it. It just doesn't enter my mind.
It's good. I don't like preaching sobriety, but I do talk about it when it's appropriate, and because I don't want to tell someone, hey, don't do that, or don't smoke that, don't do that, because they already know that.
Right.
What I do is I tell them that I miss my brothers and what happened, because you don't want people preaching, hey, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
They know that, and and I'm not a hypocrite. There was a time when I did say, why did my brothers do that? Why did they do drugs? And I was the good boy because I was doing cocaine.
Right,
I was the good boy because I was doing crystal. Tommy wasn't doing heroin, so I was the good son. How stupid is that? And I was mad at them for being strung out on heroin while I was snorting cocaine. That's dumb. But at the time it didn't feel wrong. But as I'm older and I look back, it was very hypocritical of me. And that's why I miss my brothers.
Yeah. Well, you were young,
Well, I was old enough to understand what I was doing.
Well, right, but I mean to say though, like I was the good baby because I'm not doing that. I mean, we're just young and our thoughts aren't like all there all the time until we get a little bit older, and sometimes not even then.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even then. Well, what is next for you guys? I know you can't tell us like what's in the works, but what do you see happening with, let's say, Breaking and Entering Christmas? Like,
well, we're gonna. That's regardless if we are on or off the air at that time.
Yeah.
I'm still doing Breaking and Entering Christmas on a radio show. On a radio station. Breaking and Entering Christmas will happen on the radio this year.
Well, you guys had a 17-month hiatus, and you guys still went. You went on one of the TV stations, I think.
Christmas 2009, I did it on KUSI.
Yeah.
And Christmas 2010, I did it on 103.7. I actually called the guy and I said, hey, we're not on the radio yet, but I want to do this. Will you let me on? They let me on the radio. That was kind of cool.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, it's a huge deal. Like you said, you help about 40 families. One of those is publicly, on the radio, on the radio or on TV, whatever it may be the case. Or both, yeah. It's been really fun. I've had a blast. I mean, thanks for letting me be part of the hoodlums.
Yeah, Chula Vista.
Yeah, so you guys became the hoodlums, doing the Breaking and Entering Christmas. And what do you see though for you as far as your future? You got the Radio Hall of Fame. What's next?
Our show is still together. Although we are off the air right now, we are a better show today than we were on June 27th. We still talk, we still communicate every single day, and we keep in touch with our listeners. And so we are good, and we're humbled. And we're inspired by what happened, and I got a chip on my shoulder right here, and we want to come back. And I'm very confident we are going to come back. So I see us. I'm still, on the. I'm still someone on the radio, and I see that as my future. And as I get older, I love what I'm doing off the air. Reading to kids and talking speeches. That's weird. Speaking at graduations. That I always believe will be in my life.
Do you remember your first time speaking and
Yes.
what it was like? Were you nervous, scared, or anything like that? Or you?
It was a woman named Nancy who originally wrote me a letter and wrote someone at Juvenile Hall saying something like, "Hey, I just read something Tommy wrote about his brothers. I think he would be great at Juvenile Hall." And they asked me if I could speak at Juvenile Hall, and I said no for like 2 months. And then Dahlia, the actual teacher at Juvie, she started writing me, and she says, "Hey, I think you would be good to tell your story." And then I eventually said yes. It was like 10 years ago, and I remember I wrote it out, and I stood up in front of a pod, kids.
Like how many is a pod about?
20.
Okay.
Of kids that honestly,
kids like this. Like
who
the hell is this guy?
Yeah, they actually have to walk around like this.
Oh, they do. Oh,
when they walk, they got to fold their arms.
Okay.
And when they walk around, and they were seated in their little cubicle area, kind of, and where they're locked up, and they sat down, and I stood and I read it, and and it reached. They liked it. They respected it. And then the next time I came, I did it without my notes, and then I just felt a little better and better. And then I started bringing friends, Steve Finley, you know, Clark and Gary Finelli and Gary Plummer and everyone. So, you know, there's different configurations on how I speak to juvenile hall. But sometimes I just go by myself, which I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to go to...
On your birthday!
Yeah.
Tomorrow's your birthday. You're going to be 54.
Wait, 3. I was born in 82.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm a year older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow you're going down there for your birthday.
Because there's this girl that's in Girl Juvie, Girls Rehabilitation Facility in San Diego, and she's earned her high school diploma. And it's just one girl, and they're going to have a graduation ceremony, and they asked me to say a few words. And I remember when they asked me, I said, what day? And when they said August 24th, I said, uh-oh, because it was my birthday. And I said, you know what? That's exactly what I want to do for my birthday. And so tomorrow at 12:30, I'm going to speak to a girl that's graduating, and
that's so cool.
And she's going to get out, and hopefully I'll say something to her that triggers her to not want to come back.
Yeah. So she's going to get out soon? Do you know? Do you know the story?
If not tomorrow, the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting her, you said diploma or GED?
High school diploma.
High school diploma, and then getting out right at the same time.
Yeah.
And then,
And I'm going to tell her she should be very proud, and how she earned her high school diploma in that place should set the tone for the rest of her life, because life is hard out there. And the way she got her high school diploma was hard, but she did it. And that's what she needs to take out in the real world and never come back. Yeah. And it's a badge of honor. In my opinion, it's a badge of honor to go to juvie if you never come back. If you keep coming back, it's not a badge of honor. But if you did time in juvie and you're a success, saying you went to juvenile hall should be a badge of honor. And that's what I tell those kids, to not be ashamed of where they're at.
Right, right. And those some of those kids do go in and out. But like you said, if you go one time and then get out and never come back. Well, what do we got? Awesome. Congrats to the girl. Cool birthday gift. Yes. Happy birthday. So my friends Patty and Catherine there. It's so great that you are helping our youth see that there are other ways. Yeah, definitely. Yes. And like you said, you use the story because you were never in juvie and you were never incarcerated yourself. So using the story of your brothers and how you lost them really can touch them.
Because in juvenile hall, when you're locked up and there's a guy that's standing up in front of you saying a few words, you know, wanting to speak with you, you have about 3 seconds to get their attention, and they will know if you're bull. Can I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
They will know if you're.
We're not censored.
They will know if you're full of shit.
Right.
In 5 seconds. So I've been lucky.
So what are your first few words? I mean, you got that many seconds to catch them. What do you?
Hi, my name's Tommy, and I grew up right around the corner. And I say, I'm not a cop, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a teacher. I'm just someone who grew up right here. And the reason why I'm here is because I miss my brothers. And I said my brothers were heroin addicts, and then I got them because they all can relate to that. And you know, right when they see me, all of a sudden I'm talking about heroin addicts. They all can relate, and they all look up. And I got them, and then I say a few more words, and then sometimes I even have a couple of them cry.
Really?
And
do you ever cry while you're up there? Or have you?
I've known to cry.
You're a sensitive man. I mean,
I cry. I'm crying over the fact that you spent $50 for this room.
Oh.
But yes, I actually cry. And you know what I cry is you know, about my brothers, but I also say, you know, my mom. And I go, my mom never did a drug in her life. My mom never did it. My mom was a saint, but heroin killed my mom. And I say, my mom died of a broken heart. And I said, don't do that to your moms. Don't do that to your little brother. Because if you continue to follow the path that my brothers took, that, you know, you may be standing up in front of some kids saying how much you miss them. and 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 you don't want your mom, who's a saint, to die of a broken heart. And I start crying.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah.
That's cool. I'm cool about anything.
Well, what I was wondering, I'm going to change the subject, or I want to go to radio producing, because that is, I'm assuming it's a pretty demanding job as far as like time, like getting everything lined up. And so how much time do you spend prepping for a show? Because you guys do it every single day, so you got to prep every day, or do you not spend any time?
No. Your life, you know. One thing that has happened to us, and the reason why I believe we're still relevant 30 years later, is because our show has outlasted a lot of our marriages. you know, our show is together. You know, even though Jerry's retired, we're still the Jeff and Jerry Show, although the name has changed,
right?
The Jeff and the Showgram and whatever it's going to be, but we're still the Jeff and Jerry Show, and it's lasted 30 years. We've had outlasted marriages. We've gone through divorces, gone through pregnancies, births, deaths, everything imaginable. Our show has been through. But the reason why the core of our show is still together is because we've dedicated our lives to the show. And all day long, 24/7, you know, we're thinking, you know, like if I fall down there on the stairs, you know, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, you know. Right. So you think that way. You watch TV a little differently on what people are going to talk about. You know, the president, that's a gift of things to talk about. This, you know, and radio. You know, people always say, you know, oh, radio, it's not, you know, where has it gone? But radio is bigger and better than ever.
Is it? How's that?
Because radio is this. Radio is a podcast. Radio is everything. Radio is this phone. Radio isn't just your car radio dial. Radio isn't your radio at home. Radio is everything. Alexa to this. So radio, in a sense, is bigger. You just have to understand what radio is. It's Facebook. It's social media. It's everything. Radio is under a bigger umbrella now. And
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I always thought of it as like said, turning the dial on the car radio or whatever.
There's so much more.
Yeah. So prepping for a show then.
Like, there's so much more.
So everything you do, I don't want to say everything, but a lot of times you're like looking and scanning or in your mind, like how can we use this for the show?
Yes.
How can we relate this to our fans, our audience? How can we make a difference in other people's lives?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. You guys do so much of that. You guys have done so much incredible work, you know, as a team, and you know, some of the ideas you've come up with yourself, and just putting them all out there. And
life is the show, and you know we try to put on a show that talks about what you're talking about at your dinner table. Someone a long time ago, his name was Tree. It's a dude from PB. I remember he said this back in 1989. He said something like, you know what, the reason why I like you guys is you guys are like my high school buddies that just happen to have microphones. And that's the kind of show we try to put on. And also the show, the core members of the show, if we were in high school at lunch in the quad area, none of us would be hanging out together. You know, we're all different personalities. And
that's probably why it makes the show work.
Yeah.
Because if you're all the same, then it can get stale maybe. You guys have, you've had some stuff, some fun stuff has happened. I do remember one time, 60 years ago, radio was a learning tool in our household. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I remember years ago, there was an announcement on the radio. It was made, you were at Y95. I don't know if you remember this, but there was somebody that both of us, a mutual friend of ours, that was getting married. And you're like, don't. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, Kimberly?
No, Mary.
Oh, Mary Crider.
You're like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, Mary Crider is my sixth grade girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I always love her. I love her today. And you know, it was It was cool.
Fun times.
I think I kissed Mary 5th grade on February 22nd, George Washington's birthday.
Oh gosh, I can't remember the date.
It was George Washington's birthday.
Okay, well, of course.
And so it's kind of funny, even to this day, on George Washington's birthday, February 22nd, Mary and I will somehow communicate with each other.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. Well, today is 29 years ago I met Scott.
Really?
Yeah, 29 years ago today. I remember because my dad's birthday is your birthday,
August
24th.
24th.
Yeah, so that's why I always remember your birthday because of my dad. But yeah, we met the day before my dad's birthday, 29 years ago. Dang, that's a long time ago. So let's see. I'd sit in the background as my mother and elders would sit next to the radio listening intently. You remember the old days, they would like stare at the radio. Well, we weren't alive back then.
That's
that was
right.
like in the 50s, 40s or whatever, but they stare at the radio. Yeah, so I'm just so grateful to you, for first of all, for everything, because you do so much.
You do so much.
And I know you're so humble, but thank you just for being here. And I was willing to do it like from our houses, and you're like, no, I'm driving. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, I'll be anywhere for you.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you guys for listening in. Again, this is Living Live with Linda with Little Tommy Sablan.
Hope I didn't get Mary in trouble that we still communicate. Is that going to be bad? No.
Oh, I don't know. As long as she tells her husband.
I was kidding.
As long as she tells her husband, it's all good.
All right, cool.
Yeah, she's not watching, so we're okay.
Cool.
So let's say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Oh, actually at 2:30, I'm going to be interviewing someone, so come on, check me out. Bye-bye. Just wear my hand in the way there.